Hello everyone, I cordially welcome you all to another video from the React tutorial series, and in this video we are going to discuss on state in React. So what is a state? The state is a built-in object in React which is used to contain data that has been put in and which can be utilized and modified under different user interactions, system-generated events, or even in different phases of the component lifecycle. Previously, states were only available for use in the class components and function components solely dependent on props and had no way to handle its own state data. But with the advent of React 16.8, hooks were introduced in React which benefited by allowing developers to use state and separate the logic for maintenance of state and side effects from the main component in functional components, hence making them stateless, which further increases code reusability. Okay, so if you consider a e-commerce website like Amazon, suppose you have a lot of products on the home page and you want to filter those products. Okay, so you will have a lot of filter options with different field setup. So from those different fields, if you select some specific value, the data which will be displayed will be as per the applied filters. Okay, now when you apply the filters, where does that filter value get stored? That gets stored in that local component state. Okay, so that is what we do. And previously in the React class component, states were used which actually serve a lot of beneficial purpose like handling local data, handling props which are received, and a lot more. But functional components were completely stateless. But with the advent of React 16.8 and afterwards, what happened? We got hooks which actually benefited us by allowing some of the special features available in class component to be utilized in function component. So we got a hook which is named as useState that actually allowed us to use local component state in functional components, and we are going to learn how we can utilize state in both class and functional components in some time. Okay, so let us see how can we do that. So now we are back and we can see our app.tsx file. So here we are going to implement a counter. So what will that counter do? Counter will show the count, how many times the value has been increased or decreased by a margin of 1, and we will have two buttons. So when we will click on that increment button, the count value will increase by 1, and we will click on the decrement button, the count value will decrease by 1. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, within this source folder, we will create a file known as counter.tsx. Okay, as we are using TypeScript. So first of all, we will learn how can we do that in class components. So first of all, we will import React, and thereafter we have to create an interface. Okay, so interface iCounter, sorry, there is a typo, interface iCounter, and this will have a counter variable which will be of type number. Looks good. Thereafter we will create our class component. So how do we do that? If you have watched our previous video, you will know we create a class and we extend it to the React.component. So class counter extends React.component. So this means there is a class component and we extend those class. That means we inherit the properties of the component class to our counter class. Okay, so we have created our class, and now we will have a local state variable which will be of type iCounter, and this local variable will store the initial value of the counter. So initially we will set it as 0. Okay, and now we have to do two functions, one for increment and another one for decrement. So first of all, we will write the function for increment. So increment counter, I am doing it by arrow function. Okay, so what we will do, this dot set state. So I have told when you work with React state, especially in class component, you have to use this variable set state to modify the state variables. Okay, now here we will mention an argument which will be the previous state, and previous state will also be of same type iCounter. And what we will do here, we will say the updated counter value should be previous state counter value plus 1. So easily understandable. So we have defined the function increment counter using arrow function, and here we have called setState method, which is available for React class components, and here we have access to the previous state variable. So we have said access that previous state variable, and we have updated the counter by 1. So we have said counter will be the previous state counter plus 1. So similarly we will write another function for decrement. So I will name it as decrement counter, and it will be exactly same apart from the fact it will be -1. Okay. So our utility methods are done. Now we have to write the JSX. So render, what we are going to render, as I always do, return. I will create a div with the class name container fluid, and here first of all within h1 I will show the value of the counter. Okay, so it will be this dot state dot counter. Perfect. And now I have to write two buttons, one for increment function, another one for decrement function. So button type button, it will be increment, another button for decrement operation. Decrement. And now once we have these two buttons, we have to bind the functions. So on click, so when this increment button will be clicked, it will call this dot increment counter, and similarly when the other one will be clicked, it will call this dot decrement counter. I don't know, like to some extent why this tabbing is not working for me. So yes, we are done for our child component. Now we have to call this child component from our parent app.tsx. So here in the app.tsx we are going to import counter from counter. Oops, my bad, I have forgot to export this. So export default counter. Now it looks good. So I have imported counter in our parent app.tsx, and here I will just call it counter. So it looks good. Now let's see if it is working as per our expectation. So we will open our terminal and write npm start. This will start our application. So let's wait for some time and see. So it is saying expect an assignment or function call, and instead saw an expression in line number 14 and 20. Okay, I got the issue. Basically we have to wrap this up over here. So it is a one small typo we have done, and see our error has resolved. Now if we go to the browser screen, we will see we are seeing the initial count as 0, the increment button and the decrement button. So if we click on increment, the value is incrementing by 1, and when we click on decrement, the value is decrementing by 1. Once it reaches 0, if we again click on decrement, it will become -1 because we haven't given any validations for this value. But yeah, it's working. Now this is how we have done it. So again I am going to revise over this. So we have imported React from React, we have defined an interface, we have defined our local state variable, now we have defined the function increment counter and decrement counter. Thereafter we have returned our JSX code. We are initially showing the counter, and we have two buttons on clicking which we will call their respective method, that is increment counter and decrement counter. So that's how we have done it using class component. Now it's time for us to do the exact same thing using function components. So first of all, I will remove everything from here and start from scratch. So I will create a function component and here it will return a div of type container fluid. Within h1 we will have some text, and at the end we have to export this component. So export default counter. Looks good. Now, as I have told, while working with states in React functional components, we have to use the hook known as useState. So we are going to discuss about hooks in one of our upcoming videos, but for now just remember this hook which I am going to explain. So we will import useState from React. Here I will define const counter comma set counter, and it will be useState 0. So what this useState hooks does, it returns us two things. One is the local state variable, and another one is a function to update that state variable. Okay, and here I will write counter. Now thereafter we will have two buttons, as we have already seen in the previous example. So one button for increment and another button for decrement. Okay, so it will be decrement, and now we have to write methods to bind these buttons to do their exact task, like to increment the value by 1 and to decrement the value by 1. So how do we do that? We do that by writing onClick methods here, and within this onClick methods it will called set counter, and within set counter we again have access to our previous state variable, which I will write as prdev in short, and I will say previous plus 1. And similarly for the decrement button, I will write the exact same thing but -1, because we are reducing the value by -1. So we have done our work. Let's check if it's working or not. So again we will go to the terminal and hit npm start. Let the browser open up. So as you can see, we are seeing the exact same UI. So when we click on that increment button, the value is increasing, and when we click on the decrement button, the value is decreasing. Okay, so when we again click on this increment button, the value is increasing, and when we again click on this decrement button, it is decreasing, like the exact previous code. So if you are not sure again what this useState does, useState is a hook which comes with React. It uses an argument which sets the value of the local state variable as the value provided to it. So when we have set useState 0, so the initial value of this counter variable will be 0. And useState also returns a method which I have named here as setCounter. This will be the method to update this local state variable. And when I have clicked on this increment button, it is calling the setCounter, which has access to the previous state, and we are telling it that to do previous state plus 1, and for decrement counter we are doing previous state -1. So this is what we wanted to make. So I hope you like this video. In case you like this video, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We are going to bring up more videos in the upcoming future. And for any queries, doubts, suggestions or feedbacks, feel free to post in the comment section. We are going to reply. So thank you for now. See you in the next video. Bye.